Hello and welcome to a meeting of the Central Virginia chapter of SABR, Society for American Baseball Research. My name is Tom Hardiman. I am the chair of the Central Virginia chapter, and I'm honored to have with me today as my guest, Mr. Jorge Colón Delgado. Jorge, how are you doing today?
Hi, Tom. Very happy to be with you today.
Well, thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. Also have Michael Ortman on here. Michael's probably going to be a guest on a future show. Michael's written a book. Just real quick, Michael, give us the quick synopsis and then we'll jump back to Jorge.
A collection of 50 stories. I went to opening day every year for 50 years. And so I wrote a book of 50 stories about those 50 days.
Wow. Okay. So we're going to have you on as a future guest on our show, but appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you.
So we can learn a little bit about Puerto Rican baseball from Jorge. Jorge, you are, correct me if I'm wrong, the official historian for the Puerto Rican Baseball Hall of Fame. Is that correct?
No, official historian of the Puerto Rico Professional Baseball League.
Baseball League. Okay.
And general coordinator of the Puerto Rico Professional Hall of Fame.
Okay. I got that all wrong then. Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay.
Well, how does one become an official historian of baseball? That sounds like a great gig.
Well, I began in 2002, and from that on, I began to look for records, and then in 2016, I digitalized them. They are in baseball101.com in Spanish. Baseball101.com. All the league's record, you want to know who led the league in batting, home runs, RBIs, wins. They are from 1938. That was the first season to the past season, 2022-23.
You did that.
Yeah.
Wow, that would make you an official historian, I think. That's quite wow. That's a big deal there. So I've got a ton of questions, but I see we've got Ted joined us and Michael's on here. Certainly, if you guys have questions, jump in. But Jorge, I just wanted to talk a little bit, help educate our audience about Puerto Rican baseball. For the average fan, Roberto Clemente, comes to mind. That's like, on the Mount Rushmore of Puerto Rican baseball. But tell us a little bit more about, some of the other players. I believe there was a recent class of inductees into the Puerto Rican Baseball Hall of Fame. I may be wrong there.
Yeah. We revived the Hall of Fame. This Hall of Fame was founded in 1991. Mm-hmm. It had 4 classes: 91, 92, 93, and 96. And then it disappeared because there was no money. And so 2 years ago, I told the president of the Puerto Rican Baseball League, Juan Antonio Flores Galarza, we have to revive this. It's a shame that Puerto Rico doesn't have a Baseball Hall of Fame. And he said, yeah, you're correct. You're right. Let's do it. And we did it. And we revived it this year. Had 8 inductees, among them Jose Cruz, Juan Beniquez, Mac Oliveras, who has won 8 titles as a manager, Luis Gomez, who was owner of Mayagüez, Mike Cuellar was inducted this year too. So we have a lot of plans. They're going to give us a space in the Museo Francisco Pancho Coimbre Museum in Ponce.
Okay.
We're going to have a space there. Why in Ponce? Because in Ponce was that the Puerto Rican Baseball Professional League was born in May 1938. So I told the president of the league, we have to be in Ponce. And they gave us that space. They're going to give that space to us in April or May.
Okay.
And we are going to have our inductions ceremonies every year in Ponce. And we are going to make a web page. And we're going to do documentaries about our inductees.
Excellent. So the actual building is not yet open. That's what.
No, they're fixing some things that have to be, But we're going to have it in April, May.
Okay. Is that, just as a side note, is there a fundraising effort underway? Is there funding for it? Is that something we could help spread the word about?
Well, you can spread the word, but the league, the Puerto Rico Professional Baseball League, the owners are going to put the money. We're not going to have economic problems like the other person had in the Hall of Fame before, because that was private. Sportsmen like you and me and Michael and Ted, and they, let's say they inducted Leon Day in 1996. They have to pay all the expenses for Leon Day. It was from their pocket. They had a loan, and they were many years past until they paid that loan. Now we are not going to have that problem, because the funds are going to be from the Puerto Rico Professional Baseball League. So hopefully we are not going to have another rest. We're going to be continuously every year with these ceremonies.
Well, let me ask you on the criteria for the Puerto Rican Hall of Fame. Are you considering players that played in the Puerto Rican League, or are you considering Puerto Rican players who maybe played in your major league, like
where?
I guess
No.
Roberto Clemente.
Roberto Clemente, you have to play 10 years in the league. If you don't play 10 years, you cannot be in the. You're not going to be considered, and you have to have the numbers too.
Sure.
For example, Ivan Rodriguez was great in the United States, but he doesn't have the numbers in Puerto Rico. He doesn't have the years. Yeah, Bernie Williams. There are 2 or 3. Edgar Martinez played too little, not too much. So you have to play in Puerto Rico at least 10 years. Imported players, American players, included Negro Leaguers, 3 years. So, but you have to play in Puerto Rico.
Okay, so like Orlando Cepeda.
Orlando Cepeda is in the Hall of Fame because he's one of the greatest in Puerto Rico.
Right.
Yeah, as a batter, he has the best number of any Puerto Rican in this league. Wow. And his father, Perucho, is 2 in the Hall of Fame. Great. We can go to the so you can see the list. I have it here. 1991, Willard Brown, Pedro Cepeda, Orlando Cepeda, Roberto Clemente, Francisco Coimbre, Rubén Gómez, Luis Márquez, Victor Peyot, Big Power in the United States, Juan Pizarro, Chicago White Sox, Bob Thurman. Bob Thurman, as a matter of fact, is the home run king in Puerto Rico, 120 homers. Then in 1992, Luis Arroyo of the Yankees of New York Yankees, Carlos Bernier, Pedro Miguel Caratini, Cefo Conde, Nilo Escalera, the first black player in the Cincinnati Reds, Jose Antonio Figueroa, Juan Gilbert, Emilio Millito Navarro, Luis Rodriguez Olmo played with the Dodgers, Rafael Ortiz, this is a reporter, Rafael Ponflores, Jorge Tirado, Juan Tetelo Vargas, another reporter, Pedro Vázquez, and Pedrín Zorrilla, the owner of Santurce. In 1983, Jose Álvarez de la Vega, that's a sport commentator, Leon Day, Manuel García, Demetrio Pesante, Tomás Quiñones, Carlos Manuel Santiago, José Santiago, who played in the Negro Leagues, Luis Villodas, also played in the Negro Leagues, and Artie Wilson. And in 1996, they inducted Raymond Brown, Buster Clarkson, Joshua Gibson, Felix Mantilla, Dr. Francisco Marquez, Jose Manuel Morales, Satchel Paige, Tony Perez in the States, Juan Sanchez, and another Negro Leaguer, George Scales.
George Scales, yeah.
Yeah, so this year, for 2 votes, Johnny Davis didn't come in, a Negro Leaguer. So we have some Negro Leaguers who are nominated and are going to be considered this year again.
So that's a great segue. I was going to ask about the criteria for that. You also started, I'm very fascinated and interested in the old Negro Leagues and the players, and I know Ted is as well. You also started a website, Negro Leaguers in Puerto Rico. Is that
Puerto Rico?
Yeah. So that was another side project of yours, I guess.
Yeah, that was in December 16th, 2020, when Commissioner Rob Manfred Major League declared 7 organized Negro Leagues Major League. And I always have been interested to export our story, our history to the United States. There's not too much that in the United States they know about Puerto Rico. They think that with Roberto Clemente, they covered the island.
Yeah, that's it.
And that's not true. So I said, I know once there's going to be a time that I can export that history, and that came in December 16, 2020. And I talked with my friend Javier Castellano, who is a webmaster, and I said, Javier, this is the moment. We have to do a web page for the Negro Leaguers, and I want it in English, same as Baseball 101, but in English. And he worked on it, and it went up, I remember February 13, 2021, that was the 100 years of the Negro Leagues.
Wow. Well, I'm very glad you did it. There is a ton of great information on that page.
Yeah, and then when we began that, and I have identified 217 Negro Leaguers who play in the United States, obviously, and in Puerto Rico.
Well, I think you're right. It's a story that needs to be told more. The history needs to be learned. Without baseball in Puerto Rico and Mexico and Dominican Republic, a lot of these players wouldn't have had an opportunity to really make a living playing baseball, particularly in the Negro Leagues. And it really gave them a chance to show their skills against the best players, because a lot of times those American teams would come down. I know the Yankees came down once and did a series, and I think it was 1947.
Yep.
And played some Puerto Rican teams, and Puerto Rican teams very much held their own, and I think beat them a few times, beat the Yankees a few times.
Yeah, Ponce defeated the Yankees, and then the year after came Jackie Robinson with the Brooklyn Dodgers. But the first team that came to Puerto Rico was the Cincinnati Reds in 1936.
Wow. Yeah.
So we have a big history, a rich history. Negro Leaguers help enrich our history. And we gave those Negro Leaguers a place to play and be treated like human beings, because we always have been integrated, always, and we never have had that problem. So those Negro Leaguers came to Puerto Rico and they became our heroes.
Yeah, and that's part of the American baseball history that I really think needs to be taught and learned, because that helped pave the way for integration here. The fact that they played so freely in Puerto Rico against integrated teams. So,
and they stay in the best hotels. They went to any restaurant. They could eat in any restaurant. They can walk with any person, white or black. And for 3-4 months, they were like kings. They said, "Wow, they treat us like kings." And they came. Willard Brown came 10 years to Puerto Rico. Bob Thurman came 11 years. Same as Buster Clarkson. There are a lot of Negro Leaguers. Joshua Gibson, in his biography, there's a book that they wrote about Joshua Gibson. He said that the place that he more liked and felt beloved was Puerto Rico.
Yeah, well, I can see why. Paid him well. They treated him well. He's a heck of a ball player. Hey, I want to talk about, I'm probably not unique. I sometimes sit around and daydream, like I'm a general manager of a team and I get to pick my all-time greatest lineup. Who would I have? And arguably, a lot of people would say, I want Willie Mays in center field. And for me, right field's a tough competition, but I'd say, I want Clemente in right. And I thought, wow, what a dream outfield to have Willie Mays and Roberto Clemente in the same outfield, except that it's not a dream. It really happened in Puerto Rico.
Yes. Santurce, 1954-55. As a matter of fact, I wrote a book about it.
There you go.
La Maquinaria Perfecta, the perfect machine.
The perfect machine.
Yeah, and that was in 2007. It is in Spanish. I'm planning to publish next year in English.
Oh, great.
Because there are a lot of things there about Willie Mays and Clemente that year. The only time they played, they were teammates, besides the All-Star games in the big leagues, right? But Willie Mays helped a lot Clemente. He practiced with Clemente every morning at 11 o'clock. And because when Clemente was drafted by Pittsburgh Pirates, Branch Rickey sent him a letter and said that Clemente, welcome to the Pittsburgh Pirates organization. We want you to work in two things. First of all, you take 2 steps to throw the ball. And second, you open too much running the bases. He always, until with the Pittsburgh Pirates, he always ran like that, moving his hand and opening on the bases. But that play that Clemente did so marvelous, coming, running, and picking the ball and throwing, that was taught by Willie Mays.
Wow. Well, I know there's other great players on the team, and Ted just put a little pop-up saying he thought Clemente played left field more often, and was it Bob Thurman?
Yeah, Bob Thurman in right field, Clemente in left field, and Willie Mays in center field. And when Bob Thurman pitched, Luis Olmo played right field, and the 3 of them catch the ball basket.
Yeah. That's
basket style.
That's a heck of output. That says a lot about Willie Mays. I know it was a different time back then, but he was just coming off a great season in the majors with the Giants, where he won the MVP, and to go play ball in Puerto Rico, and not only play but help younger players. What that really speaks volumes to his character, and thank goodness he did. But man, who else was on that team? So that was,
well, the catcher was Harry Chiti and Balmy Thomas. First baseman was George Crow. Second baseman was Ronnie Sanford. Shortstop was Don Zimmer. Third baseman was Buster Clarkson. And we had then Clemente, Mays, and Thurman, and Luis Olmo, and Alfonso Gerald was another one of the outfielders. He was very good, Alfonso Gerald. And pitching, we had Sam Jones, who won the Triple Crown that year and was MVP, Reuben Gomez, New York Giants, and Bill Greason, another Negro leaguer.
mm-hmm.
The manager was Herman Franks, that later was managed San Francisco Giants. What happens is that Pedrin Zorrilla, the owner of Santurce, had a very good, was very friend of Horace Stoneham. And he was very good friend of Willie Mays too. And he talked to Stoneham, talked to Willie Mays, and Willie Mays came to Puerto Rico.
That's amazing. And the name of is Perfect Machine, is that what you said? Or
The Perfect Machine. Yeah.
Pretty close, I would say, with that lineup. It'd be tough to beat. So Jorge, I don't know how you keep up with everything, because I see you all over Facebook. You've got multiple websites. You've got, every time, we tried to promote this, and I saw it in multiple different. What else do you have going on? You had the Negro Leagues in Puerto Rico webpage. You've got the baseball.
Well, I have Negro Leaguers in Puerto Rico webpage. I have the Baseball 101 in Spanish, Baseball 101. I have a program with Adam Dabrowski from Baseball Reference. Negro Leaguers in Puerto Rico, that's one program monthly. And we talk about all these heroes of Puerto Rico. Our next program is March 27. We're going to talk about Bob Thurman. And my friend Adam is helping me with that project.
Is that a podcast, or is that a video? Is that something?
That's that's a podcast and live.
Okay.
I'm gonna send you the information for the next program so you can see it.
Yes.
But Adam is one of those persons in the United States that is promoting the history of baseball in Puerto Rico, and I'm very grateful for that. He's very interested in all that has to do with Latino baseball. And he has, when I saw him in a program, I said, this is the person that can help me promote the history of baseball. And we're since July. We began in July.
Excellent. I think Ted had another question. You touched on this. You you did all the records and digitized them from 1938. Ted wanted to know, was there any records prior to that? And he's thinking specifically early 30s, 1933, with Josh Gibson, and Ted's a big Rap Dixon fan. So I know he's interested in those kind of stats. Any
Yes.
sources of information pre-1938?
Yes, not digitalized, but yes, I'm investigating because from 1931 to 1937, we played winter ball here, not organized. And that's the era that Ted Norris is asking about. And Rap Dixon came to Puerto Rico. Joshua Gibson came with the Brooklyn Eagles, and he managed the Brooklyn Eagles in Puerto Rico. And later he managed the Santurce Cangrejeros. So the two times that Joshua Gibson managed in his career was in Puerto Rico. And it's not digitalized, but I sent Ted box scores about Rap Dixon and photos of Rap Dixon in Puerto Rico. And I made a presentation. It is in our YouTube channel about Josh Gibson, and there's a lot of information there about what did Joshua Gibson did in that period. I know that part is important. I have to finish 1931, 1933, and 1936. After that, I have all those seasons and all the players that came, all the rosters that came to Puerto Rico in those years. And that's how I know about Leon Day came to Puerto Rico. Satchel Paige came to Puerto Rico first with Josh Gibson. El Concordia from Venezuela came to Puerto Rico too. There are a lot of teams that came here to the island, and that was the beginning. I think that was the beginning of what in the future we could establish the Puerto Rico Professional Baseball League in 1938.
Yeah, that was the genesis of it. Correct. That's excellent.
Yeah.
So I think you'd mentioned it a little earlier. Kind of upcoming classes for Hall of Fame. This is something you want to do every year. Keep it going for the Puerto Rican Hall of Fame. Who are some players that you felt should have got in, but maybe fell a little short? Everyone's got their list of who should be in the Hall of Fame. Who's on your short list? Who should be?
Yeah, what happens is that in 2014, we selected the best 75 players of the Puerto Rico Baseball League. And what I did was that I took the classes that were all the players that were inducted and subtracted from the list of the 75 players, the ones that were not inducted, we nominated them.
Great.
To be fair with all those ball players, because if you begin to nominate and you can leave out some of those players that were selected best 75 players. So, and the list is about 44 players. There are a lot of them that have the credentials to be in the Hall of Fame right now.
Excellent.
And it's excuse me, Tom. It was going to be very difficult to be inducted to the Puerto Rico Professional Hall of Fame because there's a committee of 5, and if they don't have the numbers, they're not going to go to the ballot.
Well,
so it's going to be very, very tough. You have to have the numbers to be in the Hall of Fame.
Okay, Michael, did you have a question?
Yeah, I got a couple, Jorge. This is very interesting, and we could talk about this all night. I heard you say earlier you're focused more on players who played in Puerto Rico as opposed to Puerto Ricans who succeeded in professional baseball. Is there room in the future for both in this Hall of Fame, or is it really just focused on the Puerto Rican League?
No, I think it's gonna be focused on the Puerto Rican League.
Okay.
We are not gonna have, let's say, maybe, it's me talking. Maybe we have a meeting and the majority says no, we're gonna accept, and I'll say the majority says yes, but it could be that Francisco Lindor is not going to be in the Puerto Rico Baseball Hall of Fame.
You mentioned Ivan Rodriguez earlier and others. I get it.
Ivan Rodriguez, Bernie Williams.
Right.
There are a lot of players who play well in the United States that didn't have enough time in Puerto Rico. And for now, we're going to focus on the ones that play. And maybe in the future, we can consider them if It has to go to vote. You have to vote for that. And I'm against it, but if they approve it, I'll accept it.
Yeah.
What has different but related question? What has the World Baseball Classic done to elevate the stature or change the stature of Puerto Rican baseball on the world stage? Is it accepted or is it competitive?
No, but the World Baseball Classic yesterday, everybody, we had a high rating, TV rating.
Yeah,
They put they show a picture about Plaza Las Americas, the biggest shopping mall. There was no one in the mall. Everyone was seeing the game. Baseball and basketball, those two are very, very important for us. And baseball, we are a small island. We only have 3.5 million population. We are dealing with Dominican Republic, Venezuela, Mexico, United States. There are millions of people there, and we are small, and we are very courageous. We have a lot of talent, because to be in that class with all those big countries, you have to be good. And we take it very seriously. In the Caribbean series that we have every year, it's very important for us. There's a great rivalry between Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico. But what happens is that Puerto Rico doesn't goes to the draft. Dominican Republic, Venezuela, and Mexico are not in the draft. So no, we have to compete with American kids. The draft from of the United States, and that's why you have seen a little bit, not so many figures as before, but we keep producing a lot of good ball players. I said in this WBC, I said, Dominican Republic has a lot of names, but we have a lot of pitchers. If we are ahead in the 6th inning, it's going to be very tough for any team to defeat Puerto Rico, because there's pitchers and pitchers and pitchers, and pitching and defense dominates offense. So that's what happened. That's what's happening in the WBC.
Well, anyone who says these are meaningless games needs to watch last night's game.
Yeah,
that was, my heart broke when Edwin Diaz got hurt. I mean, just
that's tough.
I told Tom, at the beginning before we got on, I haven't enjoyed last night win. I can't.
You can't.
I saw. Yeah, I'm very sad. I'm very sad. And
but it was an electric night until that moment that really celebrated baseball in the Caribbean in a special way.
I haven't recovered, frankly. I haven't recovered. I haven't enjoyed it. I only have that scene of him in the wheelchair.
Yeah, and for those that missed it, the pitcher for Puerto Rico,
Edwin Diaz,
blew out his knee,
struck out the side to end the game in the 9th.
And they kind of blew out
to Dominican Republic. Of all teams, and that happens. Very tough, and then it's very tough. You have to see more. Very tough for the Mets fan. Very tough for Mr. Cohen, the owner.
Just signed a $1 million deal.
Yeah. It's very, and he's going to be out 8 months.
Yeah.
Tom, Jorge, if I may, I got one more question, then I'll yield the floor back. As a historian, turn the clock back about 20 years. The Montreal Expos played 20 Major League Baseball regular season games in Puerto Rico. I believe it was in 2004.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like? Was it the U.S. invading? Was it embraced?
No, it was great, but we enjoy a lot. But it was not a great team, but we enjoy the ride. And there were people here who wanted that franchise for Puerto Rico, but they gave it to Washington.
Right.
Yeah. And I don't think we have the population for 162, for a season in the big leagues. But we have the interest, but we don't have so many. We are not going to fill that park every time. The park is 19,000 every night. No, it's not going to happen. And maybe we are dreaming big. I think we don't have that population to have a big league team.
But that's what it was in 04, more of a trial to see if the Expos would actually move to Puerto Rico?
Yeah. I heard that it was like a trial, and we had hopes that I hope that the team was going to be named. We were going to get a franchise, and they gave it to Washington. But seeing that how although I didn't know this, you learn after. Take for instance Pittsburgh. We're not going to be worse than Pittsburgh Pirates. And the big, huh?
I'm a Pirates
fan. And for example, the Pride, with all due respect, and this franchise, they don't have a lot of attendance, but they enter monies. The money enters by contracts, and they help each other. So
revenue share. It's called revenue share. Yeah.
Yeah, revenue share. So Puerto Rico will have that, a revenue share, and that will help us a lot. I didn't know that. When I told you that, I told you what I thought in 2004. Then I learned that they had the revenue share, and I said, well, with the revenue share, we can have a franchise.
Well, I got to tell you, Washington has trouble filling that stadium all season long as well. They did all right a few years ago, but they have trouble filling it. A lot of teams have trouble filling the stadium.
A lot of teams.
So that would be cool to have a major league franchise in Puerto Rico, I think.
Oh no, yeah. Now that they understand the system, yes, and it would be great. Mexico has a franchise too. Dominican Republic with their franchise, because it's an international baseball, and that's what the WBC is doing.
I do think you'll see in baseball what the NFL is doing, and that's take some struggling franchises like the Jacksonville Jaguars and let them play a home game, in England or in Germany or in Mexico, and I think you'll see that happen.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay Rays playing games in the Caribbean, or because they're not drawing fans in St. Petersburg. I may as well experiment again in a more formal, better way in the Caribbean.
Yes.
Or probably see my Pirates down there.
They came with Roberto Clemente in 1964.
Yeah.
For a regular season game?
No, you know something? I never admired Roberto Clemente because Clemente played for San Juan. And I was a Santurce fan. That's like Boston and New York Yankees. Ooh. In that stage of my life, I didn't like Clemente. And when 1971 he was the MVP, Baltimore had a relationship with Santurce, Frank Robinson, Earl Weaver, Paul Blair, Dave May, Larry Haney. All those guys played with Santurce. And all Santurce fans were rooting for Baltimore, and Clemente killed us. And we were very mad with Clemente. And when you mature and you begin to read about him and the greatness of the man, and right now, him and Jackie Robinson are the two ball players that I most admire. But as a kid, I didn't admire Roberto.
It was hard to appreciate when he's playing on the team you don't like.
Yeah, in those days, your loyalty was with your team in Puerto Rico, not with ball players.
Right.
So we were fans of Orlando Cepeda, who was the first baseman. And the San Juan Senators were Roberto Clemente, and they have a relationship with the Pittsburgh Pirates. And Bill Reardon came here, Gene Kleins, Bruce Kison. All those players, David Cash came to Puerto Rico too, and they used the uniform, the same style of the Pittsburgh Pirates. And frankly, we hated everything that had to do with San Juan. But that's
getting the real scoop tonight. Jorge said he did not like Roberto Clemente. Wow.
Yeah. That was, and I have said that they have made me interviews, and I have done I said that in a documentary about Roberto Clemente, and I explained, and there were people there that were from that time, and they said, he's right. It was like that. He's not fooling. He's not exaggerating. We work Santurce. Santurce, almost every year won, and we brought the best players. Reggie Jackson. As a matter of fact, there are 20 players of Santurce in the Hall of Fame who play with Santurce in the Hall of Fame.
Did not know that.
Yeah, and here's another fact: Puerto Rico has 55 Hall of Famers. Figures who play in Puerto Rico are in the Hall of Fame. We are the country with more representation in Cooperstown besides the United States.
So now he wants Ivan Rodriguez.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me get that right. There are 55 players in the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame that played in Puerto Rico or from Puerto Rico.
Play in Puerto Rico.
Played in Puerto Rico.
We have 5 Puerto Ricans.
You're right.
Clemente, Cepeda, Lomar, Edgar Martinez, and Ivan Rodriguez. But besides those 5, we have 50 others that saw action in Puerto Rico and are in the Hall of Fame. Satchel Paige, Joshua Gibson, Roy Campanella,
Right.
Monte Irvin,
There's no
Sandy
problem.
Koufax.
Imagine you'll get Yadi Molina before too long.
Yeah, Hank Aaron came to Puerto Rico as a second baseman.
Really?
That was 1953. And he didn't do well. And Mickey Owens, who was the manager, was the responsible to change him to right field. He was made right field in Puerto Rico, and the first daughter of Hank Aaron was born in Puerto Rico.
That worked out pretty well for him, I think.
Good
decision.
I've heard of
with this.
that Aaron.
Yeah. So we had all those ball players: Sandy Koufax, Mike Schmidt, Gary Carter, Eddie Murray.
Yeah, that's the royalty of baseball. No doubt.
Carl Ripken came to Vizcaguas. Carl Ripken. Reggie Jackson with Santurce. Jim Palmer threw a no-hitter here in Puerto Rico with Santurce too. So there's a lot of history between Cooperstown and Puerto Rico.
Well, Jorge, you and I talked a little bit before we started the show about I think it would be great if there was this baseball history of Puerto Rico tour or event that a bunch of people like me could come down and you could guide us around and show us some cool sites and things like that. Anything like that ever happen or in the works? Or I'm just asking for myself now because I want to go to Puerto Rico and check some stuff out.
I have done that, a tour of Roberto Clemente 3 times. And I take the persons free, no charge. Where he was born, where he studied, where he was married, where he was tried out at the Brooklyn Dodgers in the Sixto Escobar Stadium, where he played, and where the plane where he died crashed. That's where we finished. And I have done that 3 times. I said in the beginning of a little bit a while ago that I didn't like Roberto Clemente. Now I like him too much because I like to talk to people about Roberto because he was so great as a ball player, but greater as a person.
I agree.
And when we go to that place where the plane crashed, the people get like still in time, and it affects them. And I say the plane was there, they crashed there because his son Luis Roberto told me where the plane would crash. Exactly the point. I know it. So told me, and I say the people at that point there's the plane. And right now Roberto Clemente we commemorate his 50th anniversary of his death, and I prepare 1972, and I prepare about a year looking for information about his death, what happened those days. I even got to interview the man that filled the Roberto Clemente plane gasoline. Wow. And I was with him an afternoon, and I research. I like to research. I like to know things. And they did a documentary of Roberto Clemente, and I said all this thing that I research. And I read everything that Roberto Clemente, everything that is written about Roberto, I read it. The best book for me about Roberto is the one written by David Maranis.
I believe I have that one on the shelf behind me.
Yeah, that man did a great job because he didn't. He put Clemente where what Clemente is. Not, people sometimes write and invent or do something, write things that are not correct. For example, you know how many times you have heard that Clemente was hidden in the minor leagues.
Right.
That's not true. How can you hire a guy that you give him a bonus and you send him to Montreal AAA? That's the biggest, more importance of the Dodgers. And Clemente received offers from the New Giants and received offers from the Milwaukee Braves, $35,000. So if there are 8 teams, 3 of them made an offer. You're gonna tell me that he was out of sight?
Yeah.
No, that's a thing that Roberto Clemente said in an interview in the sports magazine on June 1966. The interviewer said, "Roberto, what happened to you in Montreal?" "Oh, they hired me over there. They didn't want me to play."
Yeah,
and
that became
that's a myth.
Legend.
Yeah,
Yes, yeah, and
branch.
Yeah, and I like to talk and say and read and write, and I want to tell the truth. And if I know that something is not right, I'm going to say it. And people sometimes they don't like it, but I cannot tell you something I know is wrong.
Well, there you go.
Well, Jorge, is there any kind of a marker at the place where Roberto Clemente's plane crashed?
No, they're going to put a observatory,
some kind of
a deck,
historical marker or something.
But there's not going to be the marker because you have to ask for the U.S. Coast Guard for permission. It's not so easy. I tried once 15 years ago. I went to the U.S. Coast
Coast
Guard
has a program to try to accomplish that in specific places around the world.
Yeah.
And they did it for Roberto in Pittsburgh, in what is now the parking lot, which is where it is where second base was at the old stadium.
But but Michael, that's more easy.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, that's more easy than to put a mark in the sea.
Well, I didn't know, like on the shore near wherever you do your tour end at that place.
Yeah, the tour is in the beach, and then I have to say, you see those rocks there, 200 feet more after those rocks. So it's very not shallow. What's the other one? It's not shallow.
It's deep.
Deep, very deep. So it's not going to be easy to put a marker there.
No, I meant on the shore.
Yeah, on the shore they're going to do it.
So
they're going to put a deck. They're going to construct a deck. Yeah, and Major League Baseball brought 3 years ago a marker to be to be installed in that place.
That's what I meant. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I think maybe that's something we could bring back to SABR because they do have a historical marker program.
Yes.
You can get funding and obviously not out where it actually happened, but on the shore there, just some designation.
We just did one here in Central Florida at the location where Jackie Robinson played his first professional baseball games. Spring training in 1946. Before he got to the big leagues, Florida, black players weren't allowed to play anywhere except in Daytona Beach. And SABR got the marker put at that location this past year. Wonderful ceremony. Really kind of honor the place where.
Yeah, I agree with you. SABR does a great job. So many things in baseball. I'm SABR member since 1999, and I love everything that SABR does. I'm in the Negro Leagues committee with Larry Lester and all those guys, and
probably Ted.
And I love SABR.
Yeah, it's a good group. Wish we had more of them on this call today, but that's all right. We're recording it and we'll share it with them. Well, we're kind of running up against the hour, Jorge. Anything, or Michael or Ted, do you have any questions for Jorge before we let everybody go?
I think Ted asked something about Bob Thurman.
Let's see.
It flashed something.
He said, did Thurman play right field?
Oh yeah.
You answered that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we got that one covered.
The
Okay.
first manager of Roberto Clemente was Buster Claxon.
So, you said something earlier just really resonated with me. It's like the whole island's only 3.5 million people, and they've had so many great baseball players come out of the very small geography. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah. And we are the country with more Golden Gloves won.
Defense
You take
and
that
pitch. Defense and pitch.
between Clemente, Ivan Rodriguez, and Roberto Alomar, 13, 12, and 10. There are more than 50 gold gloves won by Puerto Rican in the big league. We are known by our defensive skills.
Excellent.
So the problem of Puerto Rico is that we don't talk English. We don't like to talk English, and we don't write in English. We write in Spanish. And that, contrary to Cuba, for example, that has a lot of books in English, we only have 2 books in English, and the 2 of them are written by the same person, Tom Van Heining, who lives in South Carolina, and he's a SABR member. He lives in Puerto Rico. He loves Puerto Rico. So imagine a history of Puerto Rico with only 2 books, and it's written by the same person. And that thing has bothered me for a long time. And now, since 2020, well, I make that web page, and because it's in English, it has allowed me to be in programs, be invited in programs and interviews like this one tonight.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's you're doing a great job spreading the word and sharing that information about Puerto Rican baseball. And I appreciate you joining us here tonight. And I'll be sure to share it. I've got the Central Virginia SABR chapter page, but I also have a page that you're a member of, the Winter Ball page, where it's just, I started it mainly as an extension of my interest in the Negro Leagues, and it's like these guys played everywhere. I want to learn more about Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic and so on. So I'll share it on that page as well. But I really appreciate you joining me. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I love learning about history and baseball history in particular, but you're quite the expert on Puerto Rican baseball history. So I appreciate you joining us tonight. And any parting shots for the audience, or your podcast coming up 27th?
March 27th at 8 o'clock with Adam Dabrowski. We're going to talk about Bob Thurman, home run king in Puerto Rico.
Okay. And people can find you on Facebook, I'm sure.
And Facebook and Twitter.
Okay. Track him down, connect with him, listen to those podcasts, check out his websites. They're great. A ton of information out there. Jorge, I really appreciate you joining us tonight. And Michael and Ted, thank you guys for your questions. And Michael, I'll have to circle back with you, and maybe we can talk about that book of yours soon.
Forward to it.
Okay. Thank you, Jorge.
Thanks.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you. Nice to meet you. And Michael, good luck with your book.
Thank you. You too, Jorge.